Hmm. Hexagram 28. Let's get my screen ready. Here we go. All right. The preponderance of the great. The judgment. The preponderance of the great. The ridgepole sags to the breaking point. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. Success. Pictured here is the ridgepole that holds up a structure, being pressed by something weighty and seemingly insuperable to the point that it is about to break apart. This is a metaphor either for a structure that is about to collapse or for a person's will to go on, which is in danger of being broken. The metaphor of the ridgepole, while potentially indicating many things, points mainly to the human will, both the will to go on after a crisis or the will to live. The main function of a person's will is to maintain and restore his well being in harmony with the cosmos. Will is the name for the total consciousness of a person's psyche expressed as energy. How a person directs his will is the result of his conscious decision as to what he wants to follow. When this is clear, the will finds its direction. When a person decides to follow his innermost feelings of what is true and harmonious, the cosmic sphere of consciousness, he engages the helpful energies of the cosmos for everything that he does. When he consciously decides to follow the values of the collective ego, the demonic sphere of consciousness, he loses the cosmic help and protection and thereafter must depend on his own efforts and whatever support the collective ego may give him. At any time, though, he can redirect his will to returning into unity with the cosmos. It is a mistake to think that this decision depends on a person's will. In reality, the decision is made by his common sense, which is his feeling consciousness of what is correct and harmonious. Once this feeling consciousness is fully acknowledged and agreed to by the thinking mind and inner yes, the psyche as a whole becomes harmonized behind the will. The will is then turned to discovering the untruths that have imprisoned his true self, and not, as is commonly thought, to following some path already and conveniently laid out by others. Whether the person lives fully and fulfills his destiny by giving expression to his uniqueness depends on this conscious choice to find and follow his inner truth. See Hexagram 27, Nourishment, line 6. The image of the ridgepoles sagging to the breaking point draws our attention to something that is undermining a person's will, threatening to collapse his personality. Receiving the hexagram informs him that this is a dangerous moment because the loss of will can be so great as to send a feeling message to all the body consciousnesses that it is time to terminate life. This is a message which the body obeys this is a message which the body obeys as by creating a fatal health condition or by unconsciously engineering an accident, since will is the leading force in the total consciousness. Will is undermined by mistaken ideas coming from the individual ego and collective ego concerning the true nature of the cosmos and the human place in it. It is also undermined by doubts in the original goodness and completeness of human nature. The individual ego thus continuously steals the energy of will through instilling self doubt, fears, and guilt in the person. Its activity never adds anything to his energy supply. It drives him to total exhaustion of will through the pressure it puts upon him to act. Having somewhere to go refers to the necessity to also resist the driving pressure of the collective ego in the form of shoulds and musts, and to ask the sage for help. These shoulds and musts temporarily block the energy of will, causing the person to feel depressed. An example of how the musts and shoulds are developed at an early age is you must love your mother. Such a command replaces the natural feelings of love with the ego feelings of duty and obligation, creating at the same time an inner resistance. The mother's feelings of duty toward the collective ego, likewise, cultivate her indifference to the true feelings of the child, inciting a rebellion in the child for having to show feelings at times when he does not feel them. This situation is replicated in all instances where a person is commanded to feel what he does not feel. The text to the image, traditionally connected with this hexagram, reads: "The superior man, when he stands alone, is unconcerned, and if he has to renounce to the world, he is undaunted." This statement affirms the cosmic view that the person who is true to himself renounces the way of the collective ego and goes on his way alone rather than compromise his inner truth. In doing so, he remains connected with the cosmic whole and the helpers of the invisible world. Thus, he is never alone. The collective ego would tell us otherwise, that the superior man is willing to sacrifice his life in the name of moral duty, and that the person who follows his inner truth will wind up being alone and abandoned. It furthers one to have somewhere to go, counsels a person to direct his will to following his inner truth. To do this, he needs to seek help from the sage to identify the core doubt that causes him to take on false responsibilities and constantly overburden himself. It may be that he distrusts that help for all his needs is available from the cosmos. Such an idea comes from the collective ego, which says that humans are born into this life without help, and that their only source of help are its institutions. Any institution, including the family, when it lends itself to serving the collective ego's purposes. Other doubts are: I don't deserve to be helped, to live, etc. The despair described by this hexagram has its origin in the mistaken idea that a person is born into the world without help from the cosmos. Having this view, he may then have taken on the self image of the responsible person, or the hero who saves the situations around him. Such a person may also see himself grandiosely as capable, like Atlas, of carrying the world and of managing its affairs. In the end, his will to live becomes exhausted because this is not what he is meant to do. Before he can rid himself of any of these self images, however, he needs to address the fear of becoming guilty if he sheds them. Guilt is the reinstallation feature in the collective ego's conditioning program to keep the individual tied to its system. Guilt, the sage informs us, has no basis in the cosmic order. For a better understanding, see guilt, blame, and shame. Deprogramming guilt. The I Ching, also shows us. The I Ching shows us that the person in charge of affairs succeeds best when he recognizes his dependency on the cosmos for help, and when he is willing to ask for that help and develop a daily interdependence with the sage and the helpers. He needs also to understand and adapt to the way the sage and the helpers do things. C. Freeing yourself from mistaken ideas and beliefs, and activating the helpers. This hexagram also refers to the person who, rather than relying on the sage and the helpers, places his reliance on the use of power, policies, and devices. While such means may bring desired results in the short term, the results come with a fate attached. The person who understands the cosmic principles of harmony knows that the true source of his protection and furtherance is the cosmos when he is in harmony with his inner truth. Preponderance of the great is also a metaphor for the presumed importance of anything that is seen as higher or special and therefore as over other things. Mostly, it refers to the hierarchical values promoted by the collective ego and to the ultimate collapse of that system of values. The collapse occurs, for example, when a person has put all his energies into accumulating money, fame, power, or position, or a highly regarded self image, only to find that these things are empty of the satisfaction expected. He needs to realize that by defining things as higher and lower, he is separated from his true nature and the cosmic whole, and thereby has deprived himself of the chi energy he needs for his life, as well as the help that would have come to him from the cosmos to fulfill his true destiny. The preponderance of the great is also a metaphor for the exaggerated importance humans have given to their large brain, cerebral cortex, by seeing it as designed to govern the other parts of the brain and body. In this view, the brain stem is derided as the reptilian brain and regarded only as an embarrassing remnant of our animal nature. The importance of the brainstem, as the sage has made us aware, is that it connects a person's conscious mind with the feeling consciousness of the rest of his body. When the thinking mind puts itself over the rest of the body, the person is shut off from his connection with his inner truth, and therefore also from his connection with the cosmic whole. One of the harmful effects of this idea is that it has ruled out the existence of the invisible world and its helpers, leaving the person who holds this view to his own devices. Believing that he is responsible for making everything work invariably leads to stress, and when success does not come, the stress leads to hardness, indifference to others from whom the person has become isolated, and a serious disturbance in his will to live. Also implied in the above idea that people are responsible to make everything work is the idea that there are no limits to what humans can do. Connected with it is the grandiose fantasy that humans can even overcome the physical laws of nature when they are encountered in fate. Thinking that fate has its origin in nature, people believe that they have to conquer it through fighting, as for example in fighting in illness, decay, or so called natural disasters, acts of God. See fate. The lines. Line 1. To spread white rushes underneath, no blame. This line describes the person who is burdened, like Atlas, with the world on his shoulders, and whose will to go on is ready to collapse. The line suggests that if he spreads white rushes on the ground, he may safely put his burden down on top of them. To spread white rushes is a metaphor for saying the inner no to carrying the burdens of the world, or the state, the company, or the family, and thereby invoking the helper of transformation. No blame is saying that there is no blame in refusing to take on impossible burdens. The helper of transformation is always called into action when we say the inner no to mistaken ideas about our true place in the cosmos, that we are the center of the universe and therefore have the responsibility for everything that happens. For this inner no to be effective, The person needs to rid himself of all the heroic self images that drive him to take on impossible tasks, such as the self image of the one who does everything right, or the one who is indispensable for the well being of the whole. The seeming virtue associated with such self images hides their magnificence and the fact that they drive the person to undertake tasks that they are beyond his capability and which exhaust his will. Ridding himself of them will bring him back to humility and connect him with the cosmic whole. It will also free the helpers to do whatever is needed. Spells connected with this line are created by the following phrases: you have to do it all yourself. You are indispensable. You are responsible to take care of those who cannot help themselves. Life is for the heroes of this world. You can do the impossible. C. What are projections, spells, and poison arrows? This line also refers to the fate a person has incurred through having adopted any of the mistaken ideas and self images mentioned above. His fate cannot be overcome by fighting it, but it can be ended if he will rid himself of the mistaken idea and self image that have caused it. His fate can come in the form of an illness, such as Alzheimer's disease. Line 2. A dry poplar sprouts at the root. Everything furthers. Here, the dry poplar is a metaphor for the large brain, cerebral cortex, that has dried out. Because it has been cut off from its connection with the brainstem through one or more spells that were put on the person's feelings. Thinking is superior to feeling. Thinking brings clarity. Your feelings don't count. They cannot be trusted because they are only subjective, etc. Receiving this line can be confirmed that a person has made connection to his brainstem by paying attention to his dreams, by meditating, or by asking for and following the guidance given by the sage. When this is the case, it is extremely fortunate for the situation. Such a person needs to say the inner no to others who would encourage him to dismiss such dreams or experiences in meditation as unimportant. This line can also refer to a person who has lost his will to live due to the belief that he has no purpose in life. The sprouting at the root is a metaphor for an event that makes him feel his life may have a purpose after all. This line reassures him that the fact that he is alive gives his life purpose, and that he does not need a special purpose apart from this fact. Until now, he may have thought of purpose only in terms of his head, full brain activity, rather than in terms of his heart. The poplar as a tree that draws large quantities of water is a metaphor for the way the forebrain is meant to draw on the chi energy that comes from the heart. See Hexagram 48, the well, as a metaphor for the heart. This chi energy can flow from the heart only via a person's feelings, from his heart through the brainstem, then through the limbic system, and from there, if not blocked by spells, to his two frontal lobes. The heart can be reconnected with the forebrain through understanding and respecting the true function and importance of the other parts of the brain and his feelings. This line also describes what happens when we, upon being confronted with a person who is totally under the domination of the ego, inwardly ask the sage that is in that person's presence to help. The sage can then displace the ruling ego aspect in that person and connect him with his inner truth. Line 3. The ridgepole sags. The subject of this line is the duress put upon people by mistaken ideas of duties or rights. The ridgepole is a metaphor for a person's will to live. Even an unconscious loss of will is a message to the person's body that it is time to die, a message that deprives his body cells of chi energy. This is the misfortune indicated. Receiving this line can indicate that a person's chi energy has become exhausted due to a block put on the connection between his large brain and his brainstem by a mistaken idea of duty or right. The person can reverse this situation if he rids himself of the mistaken idea in question. It can be any of the ideas mentioned in line 1, or an idea that has to do with supposed rights, privileges, or ownership. The line can also refer to blocks that have been imposed upon a relationship, causing the bond between those involved, represented here by the ridgepole, to be loaded to the breaking point. The blocks come from complying with false duties and expectations that have been superimposed upon the relationship and which have become expressed as rights, privileges, and ownership. The parties involved need to deprogram these mistaken ideas and recognize that every true relationship comes as a gift from the cosmos. Relationships cannot be taken for granted, demanded, or owned. We lose the relationship when we no longer recognize its gift nature. See what are projections, spells, and poison arrows that accompany rights, expectations, and ownership. Line 4. The ridgepole is braced, good fortune. If there are ulterior motives, it is humiliating. The ridgepole is braced can be confirming that a person's will to go on has been supported because he or someone else has said the necessary inner no to a dominant self-image. If, however, the no has only been said to get free of his misery, and he then allows the same ego driven habits to be reinstalled, the ulterior motive mentioned, this would cause the helpers to retreat and the problem to return. The will can also be braced by cooperating directly with the body consciousness, as in Reiki or acupuncture. The same warning applies that if the person only seeks to become free of his misery without removing its cause, a mistaken idea or belief, his return to his old habits will also create a return of the problem. The line can also be warning a person who has been helped by the sage to deprogram a self image not to relax into careless self confidence. He is also warned to not think that the problem has been sufficiently addressed. The reason for caution is that he still has not uncovered the deepest cause of the problem, which is his lack of self worth. This lack is created by one or more false phrases or images which he has adopted in childhood. So long as the self doubt remains, the person will continue to create ever new self images to compensate for his presumed lack. With the help of the sage and the RTCM, the complex of phrases and images can be found and deprogrammed. The mention of ulterior motives refers to ways the ego seeks to undo what the sage and the helpers have achieved. As when a person allows the ego to conclude that the importance of the problem was overestimated when he brags about the success achieved, as if, in being helped, he has a special connection with the cosmos, or when, after being helped, he feels guilty because he thinks his former beliefs would not approve of the sage and the helpers. Guilt, as mentioned throughout the I Ching, is the main means by which the collective ego keeps control over the individual in order to prevent him from following his inner truth. C. Deprogramming guilt. Line 5. A withered poplar puts forth flowers. An older woman takes a husband, no blame. The withered poplar is the image of a partnership whose substance has withered away. Its brief flowering represents the virtuous image it shows to the public as it dies within. Another meaning of the line is the flowering of a person who has freed himself from an ego complex that caused his withering by projecting it onto someone else. This happens, for example, when a person turns the responsibility for his fate over to his partner, friend, teacher, doctor, or minister. The older woman in this circumstance is the one who takes on this responsibility. Such a person acts on the belief that it is his responsibility to take on the other's burdens and that doing so is free of blame. In fact, by his action, he takes on the fate of the person he is helping. because he has prevented the other from learning what the burden of his fate would teach him. Line 6. One must go through the water. It goes over one's head, misfortune, no blame. This line, with its emphasis on the word must, states the collective ego's view of duty, that when duty requires it, one must sacrifice his life. As Wilhelm's commentary to this line puts it, there is no blame in giving up one's life that the good and the right may prevail. This view upholds the feudal tradition that it is a person's duty, when the values of his group are threatened, to put his life on the line for those values. From the cosmic viewpoint, this idea is totally false because life is a gift from the cosmos that is not meant to be squandered on the ego. Following such an idea places a person under great duress, because he is prevented from following his inner truth. Indeed, it may be that a person's inner truth may lead him to take such a sacrifice, but then it is based on needs prompted by the inner truth of the situation at the given moment. It does not come from a moral duty spelled out by someone outside himself. A person may receive this line to inform him that his will to live has been diminished through holding to the above ideas of duty. This line can also refer to someone who is going through the water due to two mistaken beliefs. One, that he is born into this life without help, and two, that he must do it all himself. When the latter idea is combined with the phrase, you are responsible for others and for the greater good, the burden becomes overwhelming in time. Unless he recognizes that help is available from the invisible world, failing to recognize this, an inner message is given to his body, which deprives it of the chi energy necessary to continue living. People who rigidly refuse to consider that there is help available outside the visible world must indeed go through the water. And my reflections on this. So I cast this hexagram today using the retrospective 3-coin method. And I got lines 1 and 2. And what I hear for myself in this key, in Gene Keys, this is about purposelessness is the shadow. And finding your purpose. And what is your purpose? And if you look at your hologenetic profile, your purpose is at the bottom of the activation sequence. And what can show up in here is people who find themselves looking for a purpose, and purpose can get thrown around in men's circles and men's work in particular. You got to find a purpose. You got to have a purpose. You got to be saving the world. Again, these are all self-images implied by the collective ego. And for me, in this journey, discovering who I am through connecting to my body and who I really am, through deep tissue work, doing deep body work, psychedelic work, craniosacral work, rage work, the 5 personality patterns work, helping me discover the language of my body, the mapping within my body that helps me identify who I am, my unique self within the collective sphere of consciousness. I found my purpose to just be me. And not in a just sense, to be me is divine. And when I discovered that my purpose is just to be me, in the context of I don't need to try and push for something else, then there was a sense of ease and grace, a feeling of ease and grace that flooded over me and still does, even when I feel that right now. And that line 1 and in there that I cast, that I was called to by the sage, that part of my process is I ask the sage every morning, what's the lesson that I want to learn? What's the lesson that you have to show me today? When you treat the sage as a teacher, and not as a schoolyard teacher, like someone that you've been, if you've your experience of school type teacher, but as a teacher that you've always wanted, right? That's curious, that wants to share with you. It's like, yeah, I've got the thing. Yeah, sure, show up, come take a seat, feel this, right? This is what I got. And in that line 1, to carry things on my shoulders. And for me, throughout my entire life, I've carried things on my shoulders, whether it's been business, family, partners, institutions, companies, organizations, structures, systems, the whole thing. Like I can put it all on my shoulders. I even joke with my wife, Cassie, that I'm a bit of a pack horse where I can carry anything. If I need to get to a goal, I'll get there, you know. And if you subscribe to astrology, you can also use it as an excuse. Like I'm Capricorn in tropical astrology, and in sidereal astrology I'm Sagittarius, so make that of you what you will. And Capricorns have this reputation for plodding up hills, you know, aiming for that goal, you know, trekking all the way, carrying the hard load, being systematized. And then to cross it over with the 5 personality patterns, you also have the rigid pattern. And I spoke about this in a lot of the I Ching commentary, is because the rigid pattern loves the self-images. You know, they're addicted to them. So being able to have this image like Atlas and being able to advertise myself as an image of Atlas, or being able to put the world on my shoulders, gives me a sense of purpose, gives me a sense of identity. But through going through this I Ching, I can put all that down, right? I don't need to abide by any rule kit. It's either when I love myself for who I am and the cosmos loves me for who I am, and it always does, it's actually a return to love, then life is easy. And it is. I don't need to try and strive to always be providing or always be masculine. I just made a video about masculine and feminine, how distorted it is. But in all of this, when you find your inner truth, which requires a connection to the common senses, which comes through connecting to the body, and they mentioned Reiki here, and sure, yeah, use Reiki. And also know plenty of people who practice Reiki and do Reiki, and they still have issues with their body, and they still have issues with being authentic because they still carry these patterns in the body, these patterns in the mind. So in order to connect to the truest version of yourself requires body and psychological work. The psyche is a combination of body and mind. So the scaffolding that can hold up some of these beliefs can be dealt with through the helper of transformation. And sometimes you just need to be told up front that, hey, you're projecting a belief onto me and it's not mine, right? And then with line 2 here, I'm just going to jump over to line 2, is the chi energy that flows from the heart can only flow through a person's feelings. And for me, making sure that I am feeling throughout the day is really important. And feeling is not the same as saying, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Oh, I'm feeling sad. Oh, I'm feeling this. No, it's sensation. So before feelings, there's sensation, okay? And sensation can be no words. And if you needed to speak it, it can be, oh, it's heavy, it's dark, it's sticky, like it wants to come through my fingertips. I could feel it running down my spine. It's like hot mercury, right? And it feels like it's just pooling at my middle back, right? And is it hot? Is it cold? What's the shape? Is it sticky? Is it sharp? Is it whatever it is, right? Hot, cold. Feels like grass. Feels like someone's picking me with pins. Feels like it's I'm in ice. Feels like my face is really hot, right? So prioritizing feeling is it feeds the chi, it feeds the body, and allows for deeper connection with the self. And when it speaks to presence, the 5 personality patterns work and my love mapping work is purely is about presence at the end of the day. And when you are in overwhelm, like you're overstimulated, then you get out of presence. You are taken out of presence. Something happens, you get triggered, right? Triggering is a useful word until it isn't. You've lost presence. You're no longer in the now. You're actually scattered either through the past or into the future. So you can get triggered and go into the past, and you can get triggered and you can go into the future. But basically, you're not there anymore. You've become a shell. Your consciousness is no longer with the current situation and the current feeling. You've split off. you're using some kind of survival pattern, whether the grass's roots is it freeze, fight, flee, or fawn. You've adopted one to try and survive the situation. But surviving only gets you so far. At some point, and a lot of therapy just deals with learning how to be with the survival. Like, oh, wow, congratulations, you've learned how to survive. It's like, what? That's not life. That's not life at all. Right. And when your body keeps looping from survival into just surviving or just that baseline, that's where you stay. Right. You stay in this "Oh, I'm surviving. Oh, I'm drowning. Oh, man, I can take a breath. Great, great, great. And that's it. Between drowning and taking a breath, that's where a lot of people live their life. What I encourage people to do is actually aim for the shore. Let's actually get you out of the water. Right? Let's just find more life than just between drowning and taking a breath of air, a gulp of air, particularly in relationships. Like if you're used to dysfunctional relationships, or you're the one in the relationship that carries the load, and your partner's the one that's not taking responsibility, and you don't even have time to feel, or you expect your partner to help you unpack your feelings, which is a beautiful thing, by the way, if you do find someone, and true love can help you do that. But if you're just used to that cycle, then you're not going to be free of it. Like your love map will continuously point you back to all of those waypoints that you don't want to go to, but are just familiar for you, right? Because you don't know how to connect to your inner truth, because your survival patterns keep on telling you that your inner truth is not safe, because when you trusted it as a child, you were punished, you were unloved, you were beaten, you were abused. Right. So the pathway to your inner truth is distorted, not just by spells and images. It's more than that. And the I Ching is a great. This book is a fantastic. Like it's fantastic at looking at the scaffolding, the psychospiritual scaffolding of identity. And there's still more that's available here to help you connect to the chi energy in the body to live your most vitalized life. That's what I want to get to speak to this. So keep sprouting. Yeah, keep connecting with the chi in your body, and to connect to the chi requires presence. All of this requires presence. If you don't know how to get into presence, I recommend to use in conjunction with this book, The 5 Personality Patterns, and see what personality pattern is you, and bring you into presence. So when you're even reading this book, when you're reading the I Ching, the Oracle of the Cosmic Way, you can be present instead of splitting off. When you're reading it and you hear something, you disappear, and then your eyes scan the page, but you're actually not taking it in. Or when you're listening to my voice and you hear a thing and you're hypnotized by my voice, but the lessons aren't actually landing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Your body can feel something that's uncomfortable, which is your inner truth, and it will ricochet you away, because to feel the depth of feeling that is there is so uncomfortable, it'll pull you out of presence, and your body hasn't prepared the bandwidth, hasn't got the bandwidth in it to feel everything that needs to be felt. And that's okay. That's okay. If you haven't been shown how to do that, totally understand. And there's an opportunity for you to feel deeper, connect deeper to your common sense, and navigate life, the world, and the cosmic way that way. Mad love. All right. Bye.